Thank you for joining us. I'm Paul Wilson.
And I'm Chris Ehmke.
And this is Diesel Performance Podcast.
I like the hand.
We're working on it. We're definitely working on our expansion of the video portion of the show. If you have not jumped over to the YouTube channel, please do so. We really appreciate would really appreciate a subscribe and a like over there. It's just Diesel Performance Podcast on the YouTube channel. Speaking of YouTube, we have a new video coming out for the 50 state legal custom tuning over at Duramax Tuners YouTube channel as well. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be out within the next week or so.
Yeah, big project with all the 50 state legal stuff.
Dude, 50 state legal is getting big. So right now, Duramax Tuners 50 state legal custom tuning includes 01 to 16 Duramax 6.6 liter, and then all of the 2.8 liters. It is, we know for a fact, it is going to be expanding into other RPOs, other brands, things like that. So it's the future, man. So if you're looking for tuning, you might as well just get ahead of the game and get yourself some good 50 state legal custom tuning from DuramaxTuner.com. Also, one of the places you can find that product and many, many others, probably the largest place for a diesel performance parts catalog is XDP. So we're really happy that XDP is a part of the show. Thank you so much for their sponsorship. You can support them by visiting their website and making some purchases.
WC Fab, another sponsor of the show, offer a lot of great truck upgrades, you know, traction bars, turbo kits, intercooler piping, coolant tanks, amongst a lot of other things. But they also have a full line of side-by-side products. I think the side-by-side market is, over the years, it's been getting more and more adopted by diesel owners, right? So you see a lot of shops kind of transition over into manufacturing of side-by-side components.
It just makes sense.
It does. They're super fun. Yeah. They're super fun. But, you know, you can check that out over at WC Fab. They have a whole list of different side-by-side components, all powder-coated, cool colors. And then Exergy Performance, probably one of our longest sponsors. You know, one of the big things that are a hot topic right now are their fuel additives. So they have a winter and a summer blend. I know we've been running the winter blend over at the shop, and knock on wood, no fuel gelling yet. So, you know, on top of all the great fuel injector and CP3 upgrades that you can do, they have an additive to, you know, make those parts live a long life.
Who else would you trust your additive from for, like,
the
its fuel
that
additive?
By,
the guys who were making the fuel injectors I want. That's it. Chris, we got a really exciting episode today. Don't worry, folks. We're going to be hearing from all of our favorite co-hosts. So we'll have Anthony Brunetti, Jeremy Garnett, and Sean Lynn on the show a little bit later. But right now, we are talking about a new emissions on sled pull challenge. Chris, this is, I think, a scheme we hatched, I don't know, 15 minutes before taping, which are probably my favorite.
They always work out.
So we've been talking for some time about doing a sled pull truck this year for the podcast. We kind of kicked around some different ideas. We were going to pool all of our resources and buy a used truck. The used truck market is
crazy,
insane. It's way overpriced. We decided that to do that and still have a budget left to modify a truck would just leave us with too old of a vehicle that it wouldn't really makes sense for what we want to talk about, and that's emissions on performance. So to do an emissions on performance build or competition, we went to somebody who knows a lot about it. So Nick Pregnant's our boss over at Duramax Tuner. We were kind of telling Nick our idea, and he actually offered up the 2017 regular cab Power Stroke that he took to All Truck Challenge.
Now, I think what's interesting with this, Paul, is we've done a program with a Duramax in the past, so we've kind of checked the LML Duramax off of our list. We've also done like an L5P Duramax a couple of years ago with one of our old employees.
Another LML at that same time.
Correct.
And then we did the LBZ with Franzen.
We did an LBZ. We've done a Cummins truck. We've had our white 06 crew cab short bed that we've sled pulled for a couple of years. So this is kind of like uncharted waters for us. We've been big in the Ford segment for quite a few years now. In pushing the emissions on R&D and what have you. And now I think it's our time to shine. So when Nick came to us and said, hey, you can use our shop truck, it's a 2017 regular cab, four-wheel drive. It's a really pretty truck. It's been on a couple of our videos. It's something that for us, I'm pumped on because it's a platform that we haven't really proven, and we're really trying to push the emissions on segment. So, you know, we have listeners and watchers all over the country and in other countries. But in the Midwest, sled pulling is very, very popular.
It's also one of the best tests of your skill in your truck because it is putting a ton ton of strain on every component throughout the vehicle, and it's also testing your driver's abilities to be able to manage those strains.
The one thing that I want to point out with this is a sled pull is one of the worst situations or processes to put the emissions equipment through.
That's right.
And for what calibrated power Duramax tuners stand for, especially with all the 50 state legal stuff that they're moving forward with, this is a true testament to the platform and what can be possible with a newer diesel with the technology and the emissions.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is going to be interesting. So the plan right now is to get the truck out to 10 different pulls throughout the year. We generally pull in northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. We're going to start looking at some of the pulls that are up there and some of the other organizations. We love ISP. They're great friends of ours. Calibrated Power and Duramax Tuner sponsor that. So there will be a big shootout. And that's something that we want to hone in on here. But we also decided that, hey, after talking with our drivers, which we're going to have Jeremy Garnett, our super tech, and Jaden, who you guys have heard on the show before, there are two mechanics who are also going to be our drivers for the season. So they've volunteered their time to work on the truck if it breaks, take the truck out and go and sled pull it, really kind of be in charge of the vehicle itself. And then, of course, they'll be reporting back to us after each event. So we'll be keeping you guys in the loop with it. But this year, in years past, I guess we'll say first, we generally sponsor a stealth turbo shootout over at the ISP, that's Illini State Pullers. Basically, you show up to 3 work stock pulls at 3 different county fairs, and we total up the distance between all 3 of those pulls, and at the end, the winner wins a cooler.
And we decided 15 minutes ago to essentially take that stealth shootout, which was a stock appearing turbo. That was the main,
that was the only requirement.
Yeah. We're going to do that to an emissions on. So basically, it's got to be in an emissions on truck, right? So the newer DPF equipped trucks, you can modify it, do whatever you need to, but it has to be a legal operating truck.
That's it.
And we're going to do those the 3 different pulls, and collect the data, add up the distances through all 3 pulls, and then that's the winner. And what we decided to do different this year is do a cash payout.
Boom, big cash payout. I know, Chris, and I think you had made this comment as well. You said, like, man, $100 is the most I ever got.
Yeah, like maybe 150. I don't recall. It was a couple years ago, but
and we're usually in like the work stock pulls in the Midwest. There's not a lot of like cash days around here. That's more of like an Ohio and kind of East Coast thing.
Starting to become a little bit more popular.
Starting to get more popular. And we saw it, and we thought, man, that's a killer idea. Like, what a great way to get people out is to increase the payout.
Yep.
So we are going to put up $1,000 to the first place winner. Winner take all. If you come out, you make these 3 pulls, and the dates and places will be TBD, but they're all going to be in northern Illinois, around like Woodstock, Belvedere area. If you come out, you make all 3 pulls, and you have a DPF equipped on your truck, that is, I want to say, because when we say emissions equipped, technically like an LB7 with stock exhaust would be emissions equipped no matter what you're in. No, we're talking about DPF equipped trucks. If you have a functioning DPF on your vehicle, you can be in. Make all 3 pulls. You pull the biggest distance, boom, we're going to pay you out $1,000. We are also going to have the podcast truck in here.
Right.
So our boys, Jaden and Jeremy, they're going to be taking the Power Stroke out. They're going to be pulling. Hey, if they win it, which they got a great truck, they have a lot of experience, I think they're pretty big contenders. If they win it, we're going to push half that payout to second place. I think that's
pretty stand up.
I think that's the right way to do it, right? Our drivers, they are volunteering their time. Yeah. So for them to go out and have a shot at getting half the purse, I think that's pretty cool for those guys. And for everybody else showing up in the area, I mean, listen, it's, if we're the ones making the rules and we win it, I don't know if that's my favorite idea. So we want to have some outs here. We want to have some places to give some feedback, right?
I think the focus with this whole idea is to promote and push that emissions on segment. There is the ability to make power. There is the ability to have a reliable truck. I know when I got into this, going to a sled pull, seeing a bunch of black smoke, like that was an attraction, right? Like it was, and it is still cool. Don't get me wrong.
I get it.
But, times have changed. The industry is shaping up, and this is, for the average worker, street truck, whatever, to go and have a little fun and dabble and see what your truck's really capable of.
If you're going to pull 3 times in a year,
and
then you're going to drive your vehicle on the road the rest of the time,
might as well make some money doing it.
This is a great opportunity for you. This is like you're the guy that we're setting this all up for, right? So our truck, let's give them a quick rundown. It's been a little while since we had the truck on the show. I think you and I did a ride-along in this.
We did.
A little ways back. Yep. So it's a 2017 Power Stroke, 4-wheel drive, 2-door. It has our Stealth 64, Stealth 67.
Who even knows anymore? It has an upgraded turbo.
It does have a drop-in upgraded Stealth turbo that is not released. We hope to see it out this year, but we'll see. A 10-millimeter
CP4 pump.
Yep.
And then stock injectors.
Stock injectors. Stock trans.
Stock trans, yeah.
Stock trans.
Those transmissions are pretty durable.
They are. They are. So like I said, it's been out. It's registered a few different dyno numbers. I'll say the one we've seen here in-house, I believe, is right around that 620 number. Yeah. Leaning on the edge of its fuel system. So I think this is going to be a competitive truck. But we've also seen clean sweep back in the day. That was our old 2011 or 2013.
I think it was a 2012, but who knows?
2012, okay.
An 11 to 14 truck, right? That's all that matters. It was an LML, an early LML.
Early LML. That made 620 horsepower, and it crushed. It went out. It was very competitive in the work stock class. So if you have a truck and you're wondering, like, hey, man, how could I compete with these guys? I think you could give us a call, and Chris will give you some good advice on what's the parts package that we can put together for you. Chris, with this, I think it's just important that people know where they can follow along, where they can give us some feedback. I will say two things. One, we need a better name for our shootout. The Calibrated Power Emissions On Shootout is what's on paper now. Please.
You got winded after saying that.
I know, it's too many words. It's not exciting. Jump over to Fans of Diesel Performance Podcast Facebook group. Give us some suggestions. I'll have a post on there likely as soon as this episode is live. We'd love to get some feedback on that. And then we used to name all of our trucks.
We did.
That was the thing when I first started around here. This was like a big deal, as we would have entire company meetings about naming a vehicle.
Yeah, I think with this particular truck, this is a purchase that I think was more of like a Nick-esque purchase. This wasn't like a CPS style purchase. So I feel like that's probably why there was never like a group of, what do we name the truck? But now, he's letting us get our hands on it. So, rightfully so.
So we're going to name it. Yeah, check. I have no idea what to name this truck. We'll post some pictures of it with the episode and share it on the Facebook group. Again, please, if you're hearing this, jump on over to Fans of Diesel Performance Podcast Facebook group. Check out the two different posts. We need a name for the shootout.
And a name for the truck.
And
keep it PG. I have a couple names in mind, but they're not appropriate.
Hey, suggest whatever you want. I will unhide any of your wildly explicit suggestions. It's a group. We won't use it.
Maybe.
This is not going to be the name of the truck.
Can't swear. It's on YouTube.
Don't worry, our producer will bleep that out. But at any rate,
get the dolphin.
we do need names, and we would appreciate your help with naming the truck and the competition.
And in the link below, we'll have the ISP link. I think would be smart, and we'll keep you guys updated on what those pull dates are and locations. So like to see you out there.
That's right. Hey guys, stick around. We got more Diesel Performance Podcast coming at you next.
All right, and we're with Anthony Bernini. How are you?
Good, man. What's going on, Chris?
I'm waiting to hear what you got for me, man.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah?
Exciting stuff.
All right.
Maybe not too exciting, but stuff that needs to be talked about,
okay.
I would say. Every year we kind of do a little bit of a segment. Nick's got a good video on cold weather operation.
Okay.
Where we're at in the Midwest, we've got a heat wave of 35 degrees today.
It's pretty nice out right now.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Snow's starting to melt, so I'm happy. But cold weather operation, not everyone lives down south. Majority of calls, yesterday alone, I got a handful of calls about cold weather operation.
Do you remember last year, Texas had that cold wave, right?
Yes.
We had a lot of southern, calls coming in where guys didn't know what the hell was going on.
Right.
So.
No, that's a good point. Like, it happens. Crazy shit happens. Yep. We got a lot of calls, and we continue to get those every year, especially when it comes in waves. I think a couple weeks ago we were down to the negatives for like a week straight, something like that. But a couple things I wanted to run through on cold weather operation, just kind of touching on Nick's video from back in 2018, things like glow plugs, block heaters, intake air heaters, things you want to have checked off your list to make sure they're working. Yeah. Even in certain climates you might not need them, but they do play in a factor. One, like the truck starting. And if you're kind of around that 30, 40 degrees, just like the quality of the start, I would say plays a factor in. Glow plugs, I mean, they'll pop a codes, intake air heater, just things you want to make sure are working properly.
I think you find a lot of times with guys, like when they get into the performance stuff, they either A, remove the air intake heater without realizing the severity of what they're going to experience. And granted, it's pockets in different parts of the country. But we've seen over the last few years, you know, you can live in Texas or you could live in Georgia, Tennessee, and you can get into some pretty cold temperatures. I could tell you, like you mentioned, today we had a heat wave. So like with my TDI, last week when we were seeing negative temperatures, like the car was brutal to start. Started it today, it popped right off. Nice, clean, smooth start, you know. So, you know, glow plug health, I went through that with the car in the fall, right before winter. Intake air heater, made sure everything was operating correctly, you know, because nothing's worse than, you know, having to fight to get a diesel engine starting when it's cold out.
Especially like what I ran into, just like personal experience as well. I think we talked about it on a previous podcast. My truck had to have the motor come out. And at that time, like, you know, DJ was talking to me, he's like, I got glow plugs on the shelf, do you want to do them? I was like, I might as well do them. That came in clutch because having to take an extension cord from the garage or on the side of the house all the way out to the truck to keep it plugged in so I could go to work, it's just a pain in the ass.
Well, I think too, batteries. You know, thinking of battery health, you know, it's not uncommon for guys to have a truck like my Cummins, my 15. I still have the original batteries in that. You know, we're talking on a truck going on 7, 8 years old.
That's a while.
And, you know, I haven't had any issues, knock on wood, but you'll get those guys where it's like, hey, my truck's having real sluggish cold starts. Well, those batteries, once they become fatigued, that's a lot of strain on getting a diesel engine started when it's cold.
Especially, you're talking about when it's cold. The big thing also is, I mean, you try to find me an 01 to 10 truck that doesn't have a sub on it for a Duramax.
Right.
Or even the older Cummins. Everyone's got aftermarket radios.
They have more electronics drawing.
Wires, lights. So, I mean, and XDP had a nice video about this. They're promoting new battery cables. Because, I mean, we've all seen something that's corroded to shit. We've got subs, amps.
Especially depending on where the truck's located in the country. You could be in the southern states and be bordering the Gulf or the Atlantic. You know, there's going to be a lot more salt in that air, and that's going to corrode over time. You know, we don't see that type of stuff here in the Midwest, but, you know, it's know your demographic.
And the other thing, one of the calls I got yesterday was like a twin turbo truck. If you don't relocate the battery,
you're down to one battery.
We've got our friend Kiefer who's got the Cummins, who's got one battery not relocated, and he always sends us Snapchats about how that thing is a bitch to start when it's cold.
Real tough.
So last thing I should say regarding cold weather is 04.5 and up. Pretty much every truck has high idle or close to them all have high idle engaged. You know, usually you can navigate through the steering wheels or the tune. Make sure that's engaged, because that way you can get your RPMs up 11, 1200.
I think one of the last things too, you know, these are all the preventatives to do on a truck, right? But running like anti-gel additives, like a winter blend additive in your fuel, is something that is that extra step to ensuring that you don't have fuel gelling occur. And I think one of the most important things is, I guess, more or less making sure that you're getting fuel from like a higher frequented fuel station. I know a couple of years back I was a victim of getting fuel from one station, and the truck kept gelling up. And when we got the truck back to the shop, 3 days in a row, same road, same location, the truck would shut off on me. And come to find out that the fuel was like really watered down, and it was straight up ice in the bottom of my tank. Not slush, not wax, it was ice. So it's one of those things, you have to be careful.
I know you run it, all of us run it here. I have the extra G stuff in my truck. Granted, mine doesn't see too much of winter as of now, but I always run it even in the summertime. Make sure, you know, lubricity, the fuel's clean, you put injectors, these are investments for most people.
I mean,
you want them to pay off.
When we had Randy on last year talking about, you know, the fuel additive, you know, he was talking about paraffin bonding, you know, and what it takes to allow those paraffins to not group together to form that wax. You know, it was really interesting. So, you know, it's one of those episodes that for our newer listeners, maybe go back and check that out. Really, really good insight.
I mean, that covers pretty much everything. Cold weather, you know, be preventative. We've got a video, we've got write-ups, blog posts, so just check those out. Last thing that I saw, I know WC Fab has been talking about manifolds for the L5P for a while. We saw those at PRI. Very nice pieces of equipment. And then their newsletter, I think it was last week, they have their 01 to 16 billet manifolds.
Very, very impressive pieces.
Very high quality. That's like, we have like usually common upgrades for like my truck is a LML driver side manifold. Like we know what the factory castings look like. To see these billet pieces that work really well with the gaskets, they actually have them where they fit with upgraded up pipes and the factory ones, which are really nice because I know sometimes you have to change up your manifold and up pipe setup depending on
turbo's configuration and
what
up pipe
you're going to
configuration.
run. So it's nice to see that. I mean, they come with ARP fasteners, new gaskets.
The whole works.
Yeah, they have ceramic coating that's good for around that 2,000 degrees as well, which is nice to see. So I mean, that's what I've got for today.
Very good. Well, we appreciate it. And until next week, right?
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
All right, folks, we are here with our remote support expert, Sean Lynn. Sean, how the hell are you?
Good. How are you, Paul?
I'm doing good, man. Glad to be back in the studio.
Absolutely.
Now, Sean, you come on the show to talk to us about different situations where you get a chance to help customers diagnose their problems over the phone, which is probably one of the most challenging aspects of diagnosing a vehicle. Is like, you don't get to go put tools on it. You don't get to go put the scanner on it. You're kind of just helping somebody diagnose their own vehicle. What do you got for us today? What's the truck we're talking about?
So today we're going to talk about a 15 Cummins, 6.7 liter, obviously, and the truck experienced a loss of power more recently.
Okay. 16 Cummins, got the 6.7 in it. Emissions equipped or deleted?
Yeah, it's emissions equipped. It's
emissions equipped. R tuning. Okay, gotcha. I missed that part. Okay, so it has calibrated power custom tuning on it. What kind of problems did he start running into?
So he's had our tuning on the truck for years, and it's been perfectly fine until more recently he started experiencing some boost control codes on his truck, and he seems like certain times the truck performs as it should, and other times it's just falling short, like a delay in throttle response, if you will.
Yeah, that's got some different potential outcomes in it. Any other symptoms? Any steps you took to diagnose it further?
Yeah, so naturally in a situation like this, I would first ask for codes because that's really going to point us in the right direction. And then beyond that, I asked for a data log. And the data log showed us what we needed to see.
Okay. What kind of PIDs do you record in that data log?
Typically the RPM, turbo boost pressure, turbo vane position, actual versus desired, fuel control state, and a number of other ones as well. Timing.
Gotcha. Okay. What did you find in the data log? What pointed you in the right direction?
So we've seen issues like this before on the higher mileage 6.7 trucks. I believe this guy had about 150,000 on his.
Okay. It's broken in.
So the turbocharger vanes were commanding, let's say, 50%, and they were actually at 20%. So when you're trying to clamp down the vanes and they're not clamping down, right there is how you're losing power.
Oof, yeah, okay. That's a pretty common problem on these 6.7 chargers. So that generally comes down to being an actuator issue. Is that what you guys found?
Yeah, so the guy replaced the actuator ultimately, and that was the solution. But over time, the actuators are known to go bad on all the range 6.7 trucks. So
yeah. The 6.7 Cummins turbo, solid turbo. The actuators leave something to be desired. The whole set actuator is the best actuator. A genuine whole set actuator is the best actuator on the market. The cheap Chinese knockoffs tend to be worse than what the factory gave you, so there's not much of an advantage of going with those. And then a lot of guys in these situations, it's a great time to upgrade, so that may be a good time to take a look at like the Stealth 64 turbo for your truck. And there's some other options out there as well, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty common occurrence, and if you replace the actuator with an inexpensive one, you're probably going to be doing it again soon because this part is bolted to the side of the turbo and it gets baked and cooled so many times.
Yeah.
It's better to go with OEM in a situation like this.
Good call, man. Well, hey, nice and easy. That's a clean diagnostic and a good, like, very clear outcome. Good job.
Yeah, the data log was really the saving grace on that one because otherwise it's really hard to tell exactly what you mean by, oh, the pedal feels lazy.
Yeah. Well, because that could be a boost leak and you wouldn't see the smoke output because it's emissions equipped. That could be a fuel system issue. And again, you wouldn't see smoke output. You might not hear the injector rattle because of all the sound dampening. So yeah, the data log, I think right there is the key to like really be able to hone in and say, okay, this is exactly what the problem is. And here we know a solution based on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like it. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Folks, stick around. We got a little bit more Diesel Performance Podcast coming at you in just a moment. All right, folks, we are here with our super tech, Jeremy Garnett. Jeremy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Back in the studio, and we are talking about what truck this week?
An 01 second-gen Dodge.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. 01 second-gen Dodge. These are the VP44 trucks.
Yes, they are.
All right. Pump issue?
No. So
It's always worth asking off the top, is it a pump or a transmission issue?
Right.
Right.
So this truck here, we worked on it about a year and a half ago, and we did a pump.
Okay.
And it's actually a pretty low mileage truck.
All right.
So it's only got 88K on it.
Oh, it's clean then.
Yeah, it's clean, low mileage. So we put a little bit of power on it about a year and a half ago, and then now we just came in for some other issues. So
Okay. What did the ticket come in with? What'd you have for a customer complaint?
losing coolant, and it just smelling like coolant. So
Oh, how much power did we throw at this truck?
100, 200 horse, 150 horse.
Man, that's a lot for these.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what type of driver do we have? Do we have somebody who's like a reckless kid? Do we have somebody who's a reckless kid at heart?
Yes, a kid at heart. He's can't say older, but a little bit older than me.
Okay.
And still a little bit kid at heart. Likes to play a little bit. Likes to pull it in traffic, and
All right.
so. Yeah.
What did you start your diagnostics with?
First of all, just running the truck, making sure that there was no leaks. Like say the water pump's not leaking, the radiator's not leaking, stuff
Right.
like that. Just a normal, everyday, basic check. And then we went ahead and then we drove the truck, got it hot, and then I noticed the coolant smell that he was getting. Went back and then we did a head gasket check on it, and
Yeah.
found that we had a bad head gasket.
Oh, kind of to be expected, kind of not.
Yeah.
There's not like every VP truck that gets like a turbo and injectors and a
Right.
tune is going to blow the head gasket. But once you've seen a lot of blown head gaskets on these trucks,
Right.
you often notice that they do have that parts list involved.
They do. And, and again, we did throw a little bit of power at it to begin with.
Yeah.
We did, a VP pump. We did injectors on it. We put a turbo on it.
Yeah.
So, we did do that stuff. We put an edge tuner on it over top of our tuning.
Yeah.
So,
So it's got the comp box plus the MM3 tunes.
Yep.
All right.
So,
all right.
yeah, we decided to go ahead and just do a head gasket job on it. So pulled the head off it, and it's clean. I mean, just clean as probably one of the cleanest second-gen engine blocks I've seen in a long time.
Really?
So, yeah.
Even after it blew the head gasket?
Even after it blew the head gasket.
Okay.
So at this point, the guy's like, what, let's put a bigger set of valve springs in it.
Yep.
So we went to a 103 valve spring, and then we're putting a set of heavy-duty push rods in it.
All right.
So, yeah, and a new set of head studs, and be good to go.
Beef it up a little and
Yeah.
get it back on the road.
Yeah.
I like it, man.
So I'm can't wait to actually get it back on the road.
Where are you at in the repair right now?
I'm waiting for the push rods. I have the head sitting on it. I have it torqued down. The injectors are in it and everything. I'm just waiting for the push rod so I can do the valve adjustment and get it started up.
I like it, man. Any pro tip for our viewers and listeners out there?
Take your time. And then, not particularly this truck, but trucks in general, just double checking your work. I had an L5P that one of the hoses was leaking after I get done working on it.
Yeah.
It's like every truck I do, it's like on that L5, those L5Ps, like just double check your work and before you give it back to a customer.
Yeah, that's such a good tip there. Take it out, get it on the road,
Yeah.
test drive it, bring it back in, look at it again.
Right. I know I've said it
Make
100
that
times,
decision.
but I just can't say it enough. Like just double check and just, and then put all the bolts back in.
That's one we've seen in the shop
Right.
before. We've had some less seasoned techs out there who just, I don't know, struggled with like
Right.
fender bolts and things like that.
Heat
Clips.
shield bolts. and-
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that one's hard. It doesn't need it.
They all came out. They all go in.
Yes.
That's a good rule to have. I like it, man. Well, that's a nice clean one.
Yeah.
We'll have to stay up to date on this truck. Maybe we'll do a ride along in it here in the future.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, guys. Viewers, listeners, thank you so much for sticking around with us for Diesel Performance Podcast. I'm Paul Wilson. Thank you for watching. Thanks for joining us today, guys. This has been Paul Wilson.
And Chris Ehmke.
Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Diving.